Today we're at the beautiful Kew Gardens to do some macro photography.
Yay, my favorite.
I actually managed to get Con to come along, so I'm going to share some tips with you. We're shooting with the Z8 and the 105 macro and the 50mm macro, both Z lenses today. So come along, learn from me.
Let's do that, for my sake.
For those of you who are new to macro photography, macro very loosely is close-up photography. It's making small things look bigger. If something is one-to-one, it means that the subject is life-size projected onto the sensor. So when people talk about reproduction ratios or magnification ratios, that's what they mean. And the only lenses in the Z range that currently manage that are the 105 2.8 VR and the 50mm 2.8. Those are both MC or macro lenses. There are plenty of other macro tools that you can use, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But the first thing that you want to kind of ask yourself when you're going to shoot a close-up is how much of the subject you want in focus. Do you want it to be the subject isolated in this lovely blurry background, or do you want everything to be in focus from the very front of the flower to the very back of the flower? Because if that's so, you have to get very clever with your settings. One of the biggest difficulties you might encounter when shooting very, very close is the fact that your depth of field appears very shallow at the close focusing distance. This is a 105 lens. The closest focusing distance is 29 centimeters. But at that distance, I have maybe just the tip here of a stamen in focus rather than the whole flower. So then you need to stop down your aperture. And by stopping down your aperture, you then have more of the flower in focus. On a bright sunny day like this, that's not really a problem because you've got plenty of light. Your ISO is not going to shoot up if you're shooting at a small aperture and a fast shutter speed. But if you're struggling for light, you might need to add extra lights, flashes, etc. to get all that light, or use a tripod. I found some alums, although they're sort of on their last legs now, but the 105 is too long to be this close. This is a great lens if you're taking pictures of skittish bugs or you want to be far away, but right now I need the 50, which is in your pocket.
Right in my pocket.
There you go.
Here you go. Boop, 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 boop.
I've got the 50 now, so I can actually get both of those alum blooms in focus and fit them in the whole frame with the 50, whereas with the 105, I just had like a small portion in the middle. So picking your macro lens is quite important. If most of what you do is going to be flowers and things you can get quite close to, the 50 for me is the main lens that I use. I also use it as a general purpose lens, while the 105, I pick out if I'm gonna go and take pictures of bees or butterflies or any kind of insect life or things that I need to be further away from. So that's worth bearing in mind when picking your lens.
Okay, well, I'll pretend that I don't know anything about macro photography. So to fit the whole flower in, what the aperture setting do you need to use? What the F number?
So the closer you are, the smaller the aperture you're gonna have to use to get everything in focus. Right now, from this distance, to have everything of that flower in focus, and bearing in mind I am about 2 feet away, I can shoot at f3.2 or f4, so the 3.5 to f4, and I can get the whole flower in focus. However, let's take this one for example, because I'm quite close to this one. With this lens at f4, I've only got the tip of one of these in focus, so I would need to actually shoot probably closer to about f8, not even, f11, and then I have all of the flower in focus. So the distance that you're working is actually really, really crucial in deciding what sort of settings you're going to use. We've got some bee action here.
Yeah, shall I shoot some B-roll?
You can shoot some B-roll and we take pictures of bees. One thing that's quite useful with the 105 is the fact that it's got a limit switch on it. So if you know that your subject is going to be within 0.5 meter, you can stop the lens from throwing the focus quite far away. Both macro lenses are quite slow to focus in comparison with other Z lenses. So when they're not in the focus range, they take quite a long time to go from the longest focusing distance to the closest focusing distance. So this comes in handy.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you do with the SIG-B?
You take it to the hospital.
Kachin, the joke of our channel.
Realize that pretty soon I'm going to make you do some flower photography. I'm going to make you do some macro. Now there's a few things you need to bear in mind, and that everyone needs to bear in mind, is that macro photography is always going to be a balance of your shutter speed and your aperture. I would say if you're starting out, just stick it on ISO auto for now. Don't get too complicated unless you're very comfortable in manual. But your depth of field is essentially the thing that's going to dictate how fast your shutter speed needs to be. If you want all of it in focus, then you're probably going to have to use a very slow shutter speed. That's where a tripod comes in. If you want just the end of the subject in focus, you can use nice fast shutter speeds. If you're taking pictures of moving subjects, you can use fast shutter speeds.
So what Becky is saying is, do it at your own risk and don't try it at home.
Okay, I hope you've been paying attention, because now I'm going to give you the camera and you are going to have to take some macro shots.
How dare I take a picture of it?
So you take some pictures, I'm going to film you taking pictures. Ask me questions if you have any, but I am sure that your shot's going to be amazing after these last, whatever, couple of hours that we've been out.
No pressure then. The depth field is a bit shallow on this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit shaky. But I'll get there. Oh, look at this, flowers. Is that what you do when you see a good flower?
Something like that. What do we think?
I think I'll pass on my test.
You think you're going to pass?
Yeah.
Get over 90%?
No, normally tests are like 60%.
Oh, is it?
That's
the passing rate?
So I'll get a pass on that.
A pass, but no merits?
No merits, no.
Aside from macro lenses, there are other tools you can use if you don't want to invest in a lens specifically for macro. There are lenses that you can put extension tubes on. I've done a video on the Kenko extension tubes, which basically bring your focusing distance closer. Or you've also got close-up filters. So there's loads and loads of macro tools if you just want to have a go but don't want to buy a macro lens. And check out our other videos for those. How did you find that?
Well, before I couldn't shoot macro photography at all, but now I'm a pro.
Excellent.
And I get paid the money to shoot some bees on the flowers.
Okay, so obviously Con has shot macro before, but one of the things that you commented on is how shallow the depth of field is. Yeah. And one way to get around that, if you are seriously looking at getting the whole subject in focus, is to look at focus stacking. We've talked about it before. There are plenty of tutorials about it on YouTube, and we can probably do one at some point if it's needed. But you can focus stack in order to take lots of pictures of the same subject and then just put them together in focus stacking software in post-processing. And then you'll have the whole flower, plant, whatever it is that you're taking a picture of in focus. But for straight out of the camera, macro, I would say that it's just a balancing act between what you want in focus and your shutter speed.
Yeah, the advice is if you're just traveling and you want to get a good macro shots, then shoot handheld. Obviously, you got plenty of lights, and your very high f-stop or small aperture allows for this, then you should be fine. However, get the tripod with you if you've got a bit more time to set up. And then, yeah, for focus stacking, you definitely need a tripod because otherwise you're going to move too much and it's not going to work. So take certain tools with you if you want to do it properly. But if you're just traveling around, a good macro lens, something like 105 or 50, is a good starting point.
Exactly. And if you don't want to invest in a full macro lens, then there are other tools out there like extension tubes and close-up filters that will get you some of the way there. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions on macro, drop them in the comments below. I'd be happy to help.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that super thanks button if you found this video super useful.
There you go.